He's Jim Stewart. I'm Rick Collins, and this is Off the Bench.
This weekend, awesome NFL. This is what we're used to. This is what we expect. The games were so close and so entertaining, even the bad ones. There was so much going on, I didn't have enough breadcrumbs to get home.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the game I ended up watching the most, the two games I ended up watching the most, were the most disappointing for me. And one was Sunday Night Football. Close game until halftime, and then Seattle just blew the doors off, and I ended up turning it off and not missing anything, really.
And the other one was the Cowboys. The Cowboys, even though many in the DFW do not like the outcome, it was a very
exciting
entertaining game. The Cowboys decided to change up their philosophy on offense. They decided to throw the ball down the field, and on the first play, they connected on a 30 or 40-yard play to Dez Bryant. Then after that, that play calling didn't really work out. It was a mess. Either Dak wasn't used to throwing down the field or was uncomfortable. Either way, it made me feel uncomfortable. He did not complete down the field very well.
No, and I think part of that is Terrence Williams looked like kind of the Terrence Williams of old, dropping passes, and that's disappointing to see because I think we thought he had turned a corner in terms of his receiving ability, especially his hands. And then we didn't see a whole lot of Jason Wynn. We didn't see a whole lot of Beasley. Dez was getting passes thrown his way, but you could tell that he and Dak are still just not in sync.
Dez's gameplay has been like a pogo stick. Massive ups, massive downs. He's made spectacular catches this year, but he's also made a lot of horrendous drops on very catchable balls. One of them was a third down play at the very first drive of the first half. He had that ball in his hands. It basically went through basically his arms, through his legs, and went out the back. I don't know. I think this is probably going to be the end of Dez Bryant as a Cowboy, but he does still have about 12 games to make it up, but he's got a lot of ground to cover.
And certainly the contract issues are going to be a big part of that. Is he's going to want to get paid like a top-end receiver, and I'm not sure he's
only had
it.
one good year.
And the Cowboys are going to have to make decisions. Are they going to pay their offensive line, or are they going to pay Dez Bryant? And I mean, look at what happens when you lose one of your offensive linemen.
Well, yeah, that and when your quarterback,
it changes everything.
Yeah, and your quarterback and your lead wide receiver are not on the same page, and he doesn't have breakaway speed anymore. He does not have the ability to separate himself, and he proved that over and over again in this game because, to be honest, the Rams' defensive backs are not special. They're not the Kansas City Chiefs. They're not the Seattle Seahawks. They're not the Washington Redskins, Denver Broncos. They're not these shutdown corners.
Yeah.
And we really did have a treat to see the best running back in the game this year. And it wasn't
Ezekiel Elliott.
It was
Todd Gurley. He was phenomenal. I mean, 7 TDs through 4 weeks. This is the Todd Gurley that came into the league and took over the league in his rookie year. His sophomore slump last year, everybody thought, okay, this is him falling off. It wasn't.
It was a coaching problem.
It was clearly coaching and the fact that Jared Goff was not effective throwing the ball down the field, and everybody, put Nate in the box against Gurley.
And I hate to say it, but right now, and I really hate to say it because people are going to probably destroy me for it, Goff, Kupp, and Gurley are looking more like the triplets than Dez, Dak, and Zeke do. Gurley is the best running back in the league right now.
Arguably, yes.
Cooper Kupp is playing a ton better than Dez Bryant, and Goff is not looking bad at all. And he is more of a downfield thrower than Dak is.
Yeah.
Dak is not looking comfortable at all, not being just a game manager.
And I wonder if the Cowboys can actually take some things from the offensive playbook of the Rams. One of the things that the Rams do so well is create more space for Gurley by running Tavon Austin as a threat in the run.
Yes.
In those pre-snap crosses behind the offensive line.
That movement pre-snap makes the defense, and they've timed it perfectly.
They have to respect it.
They don't wait for the receiver to set up on the other side. He's barely past the line when they hike the ball, and it just gives them enough reaction from the defense to be able to get them going in the opposite direction that they are running the play.
Yeah, and they ran it to perfection yesterday.
Yes, and I really am disappointed in, honestly, Jason Garrett. these games have got to be better play called, and I can't tell if it was just the offensive line last year. This defense is not what it was 3 weeks ago.
No.
This offense was not what it was last year, and it seems more and more that a lot of these players are more mediocre than we thought, and it was really an unbelievable job by the offensive line. You know, based on what we talked about on Friday, Zeke is looking to have about a 85 to 90 yard a game season. That's average. That's not the working every down back. This is not the next coming of Emmitt Smith at this point. He can come back. This offensive line could end up gelling and doing a good job, but they've basically thrown patches on an offensive line that didn't need it last year. And Dak is not the downfield threat that we thought. He is a good game manager.
Yeah.
He is a Trent Dilfer. He, more skilled. He's a Jeff Garcia.
Yeah.
Someone who, if he's not moving outside of the pocket and basically extending a play that is not planned, this offense is really, really, really non-dynamic.
Yeah, and one of the other pieces to this game was the defense. And the LA Rams, obviously, their offense is clicking. They've been doing this to everybody so far this season.
Cooper Kupp is for real.
And the defense for the Cowboys, again, struggled this weekend. Do we really start getting concerned about how this defense can hold up over the course of the season? Because last year it appeared that the Cowboys defense was good because the Cowboys offense was effective in managing the play clock and keeping them off the field. This year, they have not had that advantage.
I would take that a step further. The Cowboys defense has been almost bipolar. They are unbelievable in some plays, and then the other ones they leak like a sieve. They let the Rams get third down after third down all game long. Cooper Kupp had a couple of them, as well as Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley, again, looks unbelievable with a team last year that was everybody thought was subpar. This offensive line looks like the Dallas Cowboys offensive line of last year, and this team seems to be stepping in the right direction as of right now. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people, and at this point, they are at the top of their division.
And this shows that the Cowboys cannot take any of their opponents lightly this year. They had the toughest schedule in the NFL, as we keep repeating, and it's not going to get any easier. Next, we're going to talk more NFL Sunday.
Marie, you have prediabetes.
Prediabetes? I don't have time to eat right or exercise. I'm a busy mom.
Oh, you're a busy mom.
Yeah.
This is great news. Busy moms never get prediabetes.
Wait, what?
Let me just... Yeah, this is all the people at risk for prediabetes, and way over here, busy moms. No?
Well, we got to see more parity in the NFL this Sunday. A good example was Buffalo against Atlanta. You saw that with the Bills winning, they are somebody that's going to, be a threat in the AFC East this season. Because I think we thought to begin the season, that division's over before it began. The Patriots are going to win that division.
And I really think the storyline coming out of that game is Julio Jones. Julio Jones has the talent and the potential of being a Hall of Famer. I think the thing that's going to cripple his career is I don't think there has been 1 year, and this is just me going off the top of my head, I don't think there's been a year where he has completed all 16 games.
Well, and that's going to be a problem for a lot of, I would say, these receivers that have, that are extreme physical freaks. You looked at Megatron, Calvin Johnson. Same thing, injuries, and it was back problems for him. But you talk about, the
He was
way
on the
that
field a lot
hitting
more.
occurs. He was on the field a lot more, but he retired early because of injuries. And I think
the fact that the Lions weren't helping out.
yeah. And unfortunately now he's missing some good time with the Lions. But I think that Julio Jones still has a chance of making the Hall of Fame. I think he will be in the Hall of Fame. The question is, will he be a top 10 receiver of all time? That's where I think the injuries are going to really hamper him.
And Ryan, Matt Ryan has not adjusted well to the loss of his number 1 and number 2. Sanu is also out, and he is throwing the ball like his number 1 and number 2 wide receivers are there. He's throwing a lot of 50-50 balls that the receivers that he has right now are not able to complete. So he got picked twice on 2 horrible passes, 2 down the field, high arcing passes. And it was actually Micah Hyde from the Packers last year that just signed with the Buffalo Bills that had those 2 picks. Now, if this is what is going to happen in the future, where Matt Ryan had a lot of success as Matthew Stafford did, throwing to a tall, physical freak, and when that freak is gone, he needs to be able to adjust because Matthew did. Matthew has gone to Golden Tate, who is a possession receiver, and that has really opened the game
and
for
to
him.
his tight ends, taking advantage more of the tight ends,
And
Ebron's been
Matt Ryan
fantastic
has not. Matty Ice has not adjusted
well. It's still early. I mean, both of the guy, Julio Jones was questionable going into the game. He tried to tough it out, couldn't. Sanu went out this game. I think we'll really see what the Atlanta Falcons are without them next weekend. I think this says more about the Buffalo Bills. I'm really surprised. Tyrod Taylor, going into the season, I had no expectations for him. He's really one of those quarterbacks who I think, if he does well, that's kind of cherry on top for a team that's built on running the ball and defense. You got LaShawn McCoy running the ball, and then a very stout Buffalo defense. That's their calling card. If their quarterback can get out of the pocket and throw downfield, that's cherry on top to me. He's played phenomenal this year so far.
Again, I think that the story on that side of the field is Ryan is gone. Rex Ryan is gone, and I think this team is starting to open up a bit more. Ryan proved himself over and over again that he's a great defensive coordinator. He was with the Ravens when they won the Super Bowl.
Well, we saw the same thing here with Wade Phillips, right? And now he's back at it again as a defensive coordinator, killing it.
But look what Rex Ryan pulled a lot out of the Jets for about 2 or 3 years, and then that team imploded on itself. Same with the Bills. I'm going to be surprised if he ever gets a head coaching job again. I think people will be able to look at him and go and see his resume as a defensive coordinator and go, it's about the same as Wade.
Yeah.
But his chances of getting another head coaching job are
and sometimes you just got to accept what you're good at and what you're not good at. Also, so the Bills now are leading the AFC East with a 3-1 record. It's surprising, but it's still early, and we expect the Patriots to end up winning the division anyway. The Patriots have not had the easiest schedule in the world. The Bills have had a somewhat easier schedule. This was the biggest game they've had so far.
I would be honestly surprised if the Patriots don't win, but showing what they did in the games that the Patriots had on Sunday, their defense is giving up massive plays down the middle, as well as they're not able to seal the outside.
Yeah.
So if that is the case, the Bills are an outside running team. LaShawn McCoy has the ability to stretch it any way you want as a runner, and he's a good receiver.
Yeah.
I think the Patriots have enough offense to be able to take over their division. But if you run into a stout defense and a good running game, it might be a bit of a race.
Yeah, and the Patriots' defense has been sieve this season. They're not good.
Look at that. 2 times we mentioned sieve.
We expect them to get better as the season goes along. It's a Bill Belichick team. They've got to get better. That's just his calling card.
And then another AFC matchup with Steelers-Ravens. At first, it was a bit of this looks like it used to be, just smash mouth, and then the Steelers just decimated.
And Baltimore is just not a good team right now. I don't know all of the things that are going wrong with them. They've got what looks like a promising running back in Alex Collins. They've still got Joe Flacco at quarterback. They've lost a couple of weapons at wide receiver, but their wide receiver core was deep, and they've still got talent there. Their defense is still good, but the problem is their offense can't keep the defense off the field.
Joe Flacco has become almost immobile, and his ability to throw down the field has been declining almost every year. And then on the Steelers side, Antonio Brown, who is widely considered the best receiver in the NFL, if not tied with Julio Jones, really went off on some skew. He basically took himself out of the game.
Well, that was crazy. I think they should bench him for the first half, or at least not start him for this next game. That's unacceptable behavior on the sideline. I don't care if you're the superstar on the team or you're, a punt, return blocker. You don't go off on the sideline, slap a coach's hand out of your face. I mean,
and then throw a Gatorade bottle, throw a jug. This really is the return, and this is our first glimpse of old school wide receiver drama and divaness, if that's a word. This year, that's the kind of stuff we expect out of Ocho Cinco,
Terrell
Owens, Randy Moss, and we haven't seen it for a while.
No.
But it's finally back, and.
Oh, you enjoy it.
No, and that's the next question. Is this going to end up being a distraction, or is this good television drama?
Well, I mean, I think it's good for us because we could talk about it, and it's good to see that these guys aren't robots on the field. But also, if you're a leader on a team, you can't behave like that and expect it to be okay.
But Antonio Brown has proven that he is not a mature leader. Last year, it was either last year or the year before, he got in trouble for broadcasting on Facebook or live streaming in the locker room. He got suspended and got a massive fine. He does not make good decisions. He's a very emotional player. And as we have talked about in the past, the Steelers are not a stoic team. Mike Tomlin has created a very emotional team. They do well at home when they have a crowd backing them, and they do horrible on the road.
I don't think being emotional is a negative. I think being emotional is the results are dependent on the way that you use that emotion.
If you're an emotional team, though, distractions are not easily overcome.
I agree.
Because you go up or down. Someone like the Cowboys, someone like the Patriots, they don't have these wow moments where they just explode because they're not an emotional team, but you don't ever see a dip. Yeah. You don't see someone, you would never have seen Antonio Brown do that on the Patriots.
Yeah.
And if it did happen, the Patriots would take it in stride, and they'd either bench him or dock him or whatever, or suspend him. They would suspend him, and they would move on because it's a system-oriented team, not a player-oriented team. And next we talk about Houston. Houston was interesting because, and we'll do this real quick, and then we go to break. Houston, it was Deshaun Watson's breakout party.
Yeah.
He did awesome.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
he had 5 touchdowns, and especially after what happened with him taking his game check and giving it to 3 of the Houston Texans employees who had damage to their property because of Hurricane Harvey.
He did. His brand took leaps and bounds the last couple weeks.
It was an awesome game for him. Next.
They'll test you. Try to break your will. But however loud the loudness gets, however many cheese puffs may fly, you're the driver, the one in control. Stand firm. Just wait. And move only when you hear the click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? Well, now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
So Deshaun Watson had a phenomenal game yesterday, 5 touchdowns, which ties a rookie record in the NFL. And we're only 4 weeks in. And I said it early on after week 1. Once they benched Savage and brought Watson in at halftime, that was the last time Savage was going to see the field. And Deshaun Watson's taken off here.
He has shown to be the locker room leader. I think there's a chance by the end of the season that he is equal to or becomes the head locker room leader over J.J. Watt and Hopkins, because the way he's playing and the stuff that he's doing off the field is just, it's very, very, the team wants to rally around someone who's going to give an image like that.
Yep.
Where they know that no matter what happens, he's going to make the right decision, whether it's on or off the field. They know that he's never going to do a Dak Prescott, or a Dez Bryant or Zeke Elliott,
yeah.
where he goes over and he's going to get caught getting arrested or anything.
I was going to say, it reminds me a little bit of what Dak Prescott has done while he's been with the Cowboys, and this guy's more dynamic than Dak.
Yes, bigger arm, better legs.
Yeah, and we won't know really until at least 3/4 of the way through the season if he's going to be able to manage the team like Dak has done the last 2 years. But this is a great start. And you can't argue with that. 5 touchdowns in a game, 4 passing, 1 throwing, and then the fact that they scored 50 points for the first time in the history of the franchise. And the first time that an NFL team has done it since 2015 with the Jaguars. If they can play offense, you know as well as I do that their defense is going to be fine. They could win that division. I'd be surprised.
And as great of a story as it was for the Texans, it was equally as bad for the Titans.
Man, what a nightmare game for them.
Mariota breaks his leg. Was it break?
Knee.
Yeah, he hurts his knee. This could end up costing the season for the.
Yeah, because Mariota is really the reason that offense is as effective as it is, and dynamic as it is, because his ability, very similarly to Deshaun Watson, is he can run the ball effectively when he needs to, and he's a good thrower.
I'm sorry, I said broke his leg because I remember I was watching the Raiders game, and they were talking about how Derek Carr and Mariota both broke their legs in the same game.
Yeah, well, the same day. So this happened last year with both of them getting injured on the same day.
Yes.
In the NFL, and both of them this year again getting injured on the same day is bizarre.
But I really thought there was a lot of good hype around the Titans this year, and unless this situation with Mariota changes for the better, I think that they can really start worrying about maybe an ongoing issue with Mariota where he continues to get hurt.
Yeah.
And you made a great point in the last segment. These high impact, highly talented, highly athletic players are the ones that you always see are getting constantly injured. And we don't mean like major tear ACLs or break legs. They pull hammies, they get cramps, they are taken out of the game constantly across the league. This is really, I think, going to hamper the way that the NFL starts evaluating players coming out of college.
Well, we looked at the list of injuries, and it just went on and on. I couldn't even finish the list because there were so many injuries that just occurred this weekend. Not even looking at last week.
So, excuse me for reading this, but Julio Jones, Sanu, Dalvin Cook, Marcus Mariota, David Carr, David Emerson.
Derek Carr, you keep calling him David. He loves David.
David was a good quarterback. But David Emerson, Cliff Averill, Chris Carson, and Deshaun Bond.
And that was just a start on players. I didn't even get through half of the list of just guys who got injured this weekend.
And this is a continued conversation this is ramifications of changing the CBA. These players and the rules. They have taught that now defenders are going for the legs, and these are most of the injuries you see now are leg injuries and knee injuries and ankle injuries. But these players are pulling, tearing, and hurting themselves even without contact because the CBA has made it so they cannot get the appropriate amount of contact in practice and in preseason leading up to the season.
Yeah, let's get real quick into Sunday Night Football. So we had Seattle and Indianapolis last night. Like I was saying earlier, I stuck with it as long as I could. But Seattle in the second half just demolished Indianapolis. Indy could not get their defense off the field. Brissett was, every time he came on the field, it was great throw, and then nightmare play.
It was awkward at best. Talk about pogo stick. He was up and down the entire night. You could tell why he's been a backup.
Yeah.
But the real question is, do you think you can see that quarterback being able to advance his gameplay if they need him next week.
Not
or
in
the
that
week
offense.
after.
Not in that offense. I think right now, I mean, Frank Gore is running the ball well, but he's aging. You know that he's on his last legs, really.
Well, they ran him into the ground
Yeah,
in
and
San
their wide
Francisco.
receiver core is not the same as it used to be. Without Andrew Luck getting the ball down the field, that team is going to have trouble. And their offensive line is not that great either. I think Brissett is in a very difficult situation right now, and their defense didn't help out by letting Russell Wilson really just pick them apart in the second half. They were able to stick with it through one half, which I thought was quite impressive because I thought it would be another blowout and a disappointing Sunday night. Halfway through the game, I was like, this is not a bad game. Second half, disaster. And Brissett did not help his defense by turning the ball over twice, and both of them for touchdowns.
I was like you, 5 minutes into the second half, I turned off the TV. And even though it's our job to watch these games, it's almost unwatchable football. And you really start to see this, that if it's not two garbage teams playing each other, they're not good games.
Yeah.
Browns, Cleveland, or Cincinnati Browns, same thing.
Yeah.
These two teams should have been better, but one had a decent quarterback, one had no quarterback.
And you say Carson Palmer had a great night, but like,
Right,
how do you compare that when
Andy
he's
Dalton.
been Andy Dalton? How do you compare? I'm thinking of the old Cincinnati quarterback, Carson Palmer, who's now with Arizona. How do you say he was good when he was playing a terrible Cleveland Browns team? I mean, so there's no way to say that he's back on it until we see what happens next weekend because it's the Browns. Everybody torches the Browns.
And to be honest, I don't think there's an answer for this segment, but when we come back, we've got more sports talk next.
They'll test you. Try to break your will. But however loud the loudness gets, however many cheese puffs may fly, you're the driver, the one in control. Stand firm. Just wait. And move only when you hear the click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Wacha. Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? But now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
College football time. Let's leave the pros and go back to the amateurs. College football had an interesting weekend. There were several good games, interesting games, and leading into the weekend, we thought, okay, Clemson against Virginia Tech. That should be a good matchup.
Yep.
Virginia Tech looks like a team on the move up. Not so much.
The NFL and college football swapped again when it came to entertaining. All college football was all weekend, it seemed like, was blowouts.
Yeah.
Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, they all killed the competition. Oklahoma sat out. Oklahoma State had a great game. I really can't predict this anymore.
Oklahoma State's offensive side of the ball had a
Yes.
great game, not their defensive side.
But they still won. And,
Yes,
and
win's a win.
I
Take
really
it.
think it's going to be hard for the rest of the season on both leagues to be able to tell what the outcomes are going to be for these seasons, other than the fact that Oklahoma, Penn State, Ohio State, and Alabama, Clemson and Alabama are really pulling away.
They're pretty much a set in the top four, and that proved out with USC losing this weekend to Washington State. That was really the most entertaining game of the weekend in college football, and maybe the biggest surprise, although I could kind of see this one coming. We talked about how USC looked when they played Texas. Not as good as a lot of people thought they would be, and Texas is not the team offensively that people thought they might be under Herman. USC is not good right now.
And let's dive into that a little bit more, since the games in college football this last weekend were so skewed. Sam Darnold, first overall pick, Heisman Trophy. As it was widely and almost universally predicted amongst the experts, Sam Darnold has thrown 7 picks and 9 touchdowns this season so far.
I think he's definitely out of the Heisman race. It would take kind of a miracle quarterback comeback for him to win the Heisman race. I don't think right now that it's affected his draft stock. I think it's going to take a lot for his draft stock to be affected.
How?
Because
are they just looking at how big his arm is?
I'm telling you, it's amazing how they scout these players, but it would take an absolutely disastrous season for it to affect his draft stock. These quarterbacks, when they come in, the NFL knows exactly what they're getting. They're looking at his height, they're looking at his arm, they're looking at vision.
I don't care about any of that. I would care about what decisions he's making on the field. He's playing against subpar teams in college, and he's almost throwing 50-50
But this
picks
is like
interceptions.
this is like the girl who thinks that she can fix the really good-looking guy who
You mean
dates
the
around.
NFL?
She'll fix him, right? She can date him. She'll be the one to fix him. That's how NFL.
And that never goes wrong, right? That never goes
That's what
wrong.
NFL teams think they can do with these players. Is Johnny Manziel? We can work with him. We'll fix him. He won't be a problem in our system.
I cannot emphasize this enough. If a player cannot not throw 7 picks against teams that are subpar compared to NFL, what's he going to do in the NFL? He can't. He's barely over 500 for touchdowns, interceptions. What's he going to do in the NFL against pros?
I'm not arguing with you, but the the NFL teams, this is how they work. You'll see guys that get picked all the time they have a much lesser season than somebody else, but it's those traits that you see when they go to the NFL Combine. That's what the team wants to see. That's what they're going to draft him for.
Right now, you see 2 or 3 players at the top of the Heisman list. You've got Baker Mayfield, obviously. Then you've got the runner out of Penn State.
Saquon Barkley.
Yes, and then you've got Lamar Jackson, who, even though he's struggling a little bit this year, he's starting to pick up his pace. And to be honest, I didn't think he could, and it is really, really short-lived so far. It looks like he's starting to develop a little bit. He's not looking to take off and run after the first 2 reads are gone.
Yeah.
He looks to take off and run, slow down right before the line, and heave the ball downfield. So he's keeping his eyes up and looking downfield.
They're clearly working with him on this because this is one of the things when he came into college football, he didn't necessarily have those abilities, those traits. They're clearly working with him on it, and he's picking it up. At the end of the year, if he is still as effective as in conference against some of the best teams, against the Clemsons, Virginia Techs, as he was last year, and against lesser competition, there's definitely hope for him. NFL, maybe a second-round pick, and he could come out and be a Dak Prescott type of player if he learns to really sit in the pocket more.
But as long as Baker Mayfield has 0 interceptions and his team is undefeated, I don't see how anybody's going to supplant him at the top of the Heisman list, which is really fitting because he went from 4th on the Heisman list 2 years ago to 3rd last year.
Yeah.
And now if he can win it, I think that is an amazing story that it was a walk-on at Texas Tech. He starts, their quarterback goes down. He starts the ending of the season. They don't give him a scholarship. He leaves them because he wouldn't open up the scholarship for him. Then he walks on to Oklahoma, gets the starting job, and the last 2 years has been almost lights out.
Yeah, and then also we got to look at local teams. We've got SMU. To start that game, it's kind of been typical SMU football so far this season, which is start out really slow. And they finally picked it up in the second half and blew out UConn, which is what they should have done. They should never let UConn stick around that long. If they let any of the better teams in the conference stick around that long, they're going to have trouble the rest of the season. But a big win for them. They're 4-1. The one loss being to TCU, who's now a top 10 team. So they have a legit shot to win the AAC and getting into a nice bowl.
And when we get back, we will talk MLB.
Marie, you have prediabetes.
Prediabetes? I don't have time to eat right or exercise. I'm a busy mom.
Oh, you're a busy mom.
Yeah.
This is great news. Busy moms never get prediabetes.
Wait, what?
Let me just... Yeah, this is all the people at risk for prediabetes, and way over here, busy moms. No?
MLB August playoffs are set. Tell us what you
September.
think. Yeah, tell
It's
us.
now October.
October. Tell us
Months are
what
running
you
by for you.
think of these playoff sets so far.
I like the matchups. The Twins at the Yankees. The Twins kind of. I mean, we talked about that second playoff spot in the AL as being the team that would be the least worst team going in, and the Twins were that team.
Tongue-tied.
The Rangers, the Mariners, the Angels couldn't play well enough to get into that spot. And
to
the
be
Twins
honest,
backed
nor did we
themselves in, but-
want them in there. It would have been a blowout if they had made it. I really like the fact that the Yankees are back. I think it's good for the sport, just like in basketball when you have the Lakers and the Celtics and the big name brands are back in it at the end. Whether they win it or not, I think it's good to have them in the playoffs.
Now, and the Red Sox are in the playoffs as well, but we won't see a Yankees-Red Sox until they get to an AL Championship Series. It's possible. I don't think it's going to happen. As I've stated before, I think it's going to be the Indians against the Astros in the AL Championship. The Astros are going to be at home against the Red Sox when division series start, and the Twins or Yankees will be going to play against the Indians, who had the best record in the AL. Going to the NL, we're talking about the two division teams being the two teams that came into the league at the same time, the Diamondbacks and the Rockies. So, I mean,
the Diamondbacks, when they came into the league as a first-year team, they won the World Series.
yeah, well, you get pitching like that, it's going to be hard not to.
They had the big unit, and Roger Clemens, I don't think you could do much better than that as a starting unit. But the two teams I'm really excited for, and you tell me if you think there's going to be a good matchup, even though they're not playing each other right now, it should be down the road. I like the Nationals and the Dodgers. Look awesome.
I think the Nationals, they're lucky to be at home against the Cubs, because I think if they were playing at Wrigley, the Cubs playing a home series, a different environment, and it would be more challenging, especially in a 5-game set, because I do see that series going to 5 games, and that 5th game being at home for the Nationals could be a big help in winning that series. Looking at what the Dodgers are going to get, they're going to get either the Rockies or the Diamondbacks. I don't think either of those teams have the pitching staff or the hitting to play against the Dodgers. The Dodgers' problem is going to be hitting. Is Corey Seager going to be fully healthy? Is Bellinger going to be healthy and hitting well? I'm not sure those guys are completely healthy right now. They're hitting for average, but the power isn't there. And if they can't score runs, they are going to have problems against the Rockies, because playing at Colorado, you can't get the ball out of the ballpark. The Rockies will get the ball out of the ballpark.
The AL has really a dark horse that's going to come, even though they won their division early with the playoffs. I think Houston has a really, really good shot of making either a championship or some big noise.
How sad would it be for the Rangers to have been at basically an out away from 2 different World Series wins, and then a couple of years later, the Astros win a World Series?
Well, a couple years later, as almost a decade. I mean,
almost
almost a decade. Even though it feels like yesterday, that's why we've had this conversation.
So painful.
The Rangers are not 1 or 2 players away.
No.
They need a rebuild.
No, yeah.
You know, half their team is development players, and half their team are guys that are a couple years away from retiring. But along those personnel lines, let's look at the possibility of a major, a major attraction every year leading forward, and that is these major sluggers that emerge this year that have the potential of being a Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds,
Mark
McGwire.
Yeah, and it was really exciting to watch. I mean, out of everything that was going on in Major League Baseball, by far the most entertaining and interesting story was Aaron Judge coming from nowhere, hitting all these home runs.
All rise.
All rise for the Judge.
Greatest tagline I have ever heard.
Used to be Mike Stanton, now it's Giancarlo Stanton. Going for 60, he ended up coming up short with 59. But you've got those two guys, and then
the dark horse,
our hometown guy, Joey Gallo. Gallo's problem is that he cannot hit for average.
It can't be that bad. The average cannot be that bad.
Well, he did beat the Mendoza line, which is hitting over 200, but 208 is not going to get the job done because 208.
And I've heard that's a career best for him.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is a career best.
But the other guys can't be that much better, right? Right?
Actually, both of them were hitting over 280, which for a guy who hits a lot of home runs is really high. You don't see a whole lot of. In fact, when King Griffey was hitting over 280 and hitting all those home runs back in the day, people thought he's going to set the home run record. And because of injuries, he wasn't able to. But he was on pace to do so because you're making contact that often and you have that kind of power, you're going to hit a lot of home runs. Gallo, if he can hit over 240, I think he's got a shot at getting to 60. The problem is, if he can't hit over 210, it's not going to happen. He can hit 40, but if you only hit 210, you just can't make enough contact.
Is there anything we can do about that?
Unfortunately, I don't think so. Now, he could still be a piece to the puzzle for the Rangers, especially if he can move over to first base and play first base with that kind of power. I think it'll be okay. You know, he's going to be a hole in the lineup some nights, but it's the threat of him that's going to allow them to hit around him better. So if you put him behind Adrian Beltre, that gives Beltre a better opportunity.
And Beltre's only got a couple years left.
Give as many opportunities the guy needs, to be honest.
And a preview into more episodes this week. We talk about the Mavs Summer League starts today, and tomorrow Matt Wixon comes in and gives us our part one of the review
of Frisco High School football from this weekend.
Yep.